Hello everyone and welcome back for another Empire at War modding tutorial. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at some Galactic Conquest scenarios and how to make them. So there's a few things you're going to need for this. You're going to need a DAT Editor, which is how you add the text strings to the game, and you're going to need the source XML files. For both of those, you can find a link in the description. For the XML files, you essentially install them exactly like you would a mod. So you're going to just extract the file you download into your corruption/mods folder. Then you're going to want to make sure you end up with source data. But it's essentially the same. You're essentially making a new mod on your own here. So this can also, all this applies to any mods that already exist. So if you want to add it to Imperial Civil War or any other mod, you can do these same steps. It's essentially just to give you an idea of what all the different lines do and the basic structure of a GC. So in some different mods, there'll be a few different elements to them. Like in Imperial Civil War, we do use trade routes to travel between all planets. In other mods, that's not the case. But effectively, this should give you an understanding of how the basic structure works. So once you have all that set up, you're going to go into your source data XML folder here. And I'm not going to cover story scripting in this. We might do another tutorial about that later. But especially for the base game, it's all the exact same. Like, it's just the hero release. So there isn't too much complicated stuff going on there. We can just use an existing one. But what we will do is put our campaign in its own file. So instead of, let's see. So for the Forces of Corruption campaigns, they're all stored in Campaigns Underworld GC. So gateways, equal footing, it's all in here. And if I were not scrolling so fast, you'd also note that each GC has a different entry for each faction. So Sandbox Gateways Underworld has its own entry. And then if you scroll down, you have Sandbox Gateways Rebel. You scroll down, you have Sandbox Gateways Empire. So theoretically, you can have different layouts for each faction's version of a different GC. This is something that we actually use in Thrawn's Revenge in a few places, but not too many. I'm not aware of too many mods that make a huge use of that, but if it's something that you're interested in, whether just to make it more of a challenge, playing against a faction versus playing as a faction, that's definitely something to look into. But what we're going to do is we are going to make a copy of this file, and we're going to rename this to Campaigns Learning. I think tutorial is already a thing, which is why, yeah. Okay. So Campaigns tutorial, and we're going to go into campaign files, and we're going to duplicate this line. And this just is a way to keep everything cleaner and separated. Like in Thrawn's Revenge, we have a different folder for every campaign that we keep all the story files in, the actual Conquest file, and it's just easier than having everything piled into one folder. If you really want to add your campaign to the same file here, you can, but I just prefer it this way. It's just a bit cleaner. So Campaigns Learning. Yep. Learning, save that. So we have our file here, and we're going to use the Gateways campaign as our template here. So where's the Rebel version? Just want to find the end of that first one, and we're going to delete everything else. Just going to go through all of it so you can see what we're getting rid of. It would be easier to just make the copy, do select all, delete everything, and then copy in these end tags and the start tags. But you want to make sure that you don't get rid of the first GC here, that you leave in the XML version definition, the little tag up here, and also the tag that says campaigns, and the tag that says that ends the campaigns tag down here, because that just tells the file where it starts and ends. So we're going to go up to the top here, and these are all comments. So anything between these notations here, that in Notepad++, which you're probably going to need a copy of, you can do this in Notepad as well, but I prefer Notepad++. You're going to need, or this will just indicate that this isn't actually code, it's just for whoever's looking at the file, and it's just for documentation purposes. So we're going to sandbox campaign learning. And so sandbox learning underworld. So this is the name of your campaign. It's you're gonna name each different one, even for the different factions, differently. So you'd have sandbox learning underworld, sandbox learning rebel, sandbox learning empire. That doesn't specifically tell the game anything. So it's just the name. So you could name this 1, 2, 3, and you can name the rebel version 1, 2, 4. It doesn't really matter. What does matter though is the campaign set. So this is how it tells the game to group them together. So this is what makes it know that the rebel version, the empire version, and the underworld version are in the same campaign. So you'll see here under sandbox gateways empire that the campaign set is still sandbox gateways underworld, just like it is up here. And then so we're gonna switch this to sandbox learning, so we can have as many different factions in this as we want, or as many different playable factions as we want, and they're all going to have that set tag. The next line here, sort order. This is just the order in which it appears in the selection box when you're setting up the GC. So if you have two that are the same number, so if you have two that are sort order 4, then it will do them in the order that it reads them in the files. So because if we leave that at 4, because this file is above our new campaigns learning file, it's going to put gateways directly above learning. So it doesn't really matter what you put in here unless you really want stuff to be ordered in a specific way. Like in Thrawn's Revenge, we order it chronologically, but you can just put whatever you want in there. Then we have our text ID. This is the name of the campaign. So we're going to do text campaign learning. Usually you want to do everything in all caps for this. We're going to copy that tag. We're going to go into our source, data, text, master text file English. You're going to open it in the DAT editor that we downloaded earlier. So that one you would have just extracted. You're going to want to make sure it's opening the right thing here, data, text. So edit, insert tag, tutorial campaign. Whatever you want to call it, you just type it in there. And this is the description. You do the exact same thing here. So single description, learning. And you can use whatever notes or whatever sort of conventions you want for naming your files. That's entirely up to you. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So this is just the camera settings. Right, you start the GC. All right, so now we have all our locations. So all the planets across all the GCs, they're not created in each specific GC. They're actually standardized throughout them. I'm gonna save that and we'll close that. So I didn't put in the description, but I think you get the point there. So the locations, like I said, they are a standardized thing. They're pulled from a file, a specific file. So you're going to go into mods, source, data, XML, and you're going to scroll down here. They are in a file called planets. In Thrawn's Revenge, we have like 3 or 4 of these files. So here we go. This is what a planet XML entry looks like. I'm not going to go through this specifically yet. We'll probably do a future episode that focuses a bit more on planets and story scripting so you can have custom planets in your GCs. But for now, I'll just show you what it looks like. So this is what you want to grab. So the planet name, you can just look through the file. If you do Control F and you search for that, that'll just, I want to have planet name. There we go. So that'll let you just search through and see all the planets in the game. And you're just putting whichever ones you want in this list separated by commas. And you're always going to want the one called Galaxy Core Art Model. This isn't a real planet. I'm going to scroll up to the top here. So it's classified as a planet as far as the game objects are concerned, but it's just sort of a background prop. So yeah, in background, yes. So this is just the prop that tells it to display the galactic plane. So the giant rotating disk and texture. Without that, or without this planet, that won't exist in your campaign. So you're going to always want that, but you don't need to do anything else with it. It comes standard in the game. You don't need a different one for your map unless you want to have, like, if you were doing a campaign, say, set in a top corner of the map and you wanted to have it just show that part of the map. That would be a bit iffy on the animation, so that's probably more complicated than you want to get into, but just theoretically, that's a thing you can do. So for this, we're actually just going to leave it at, let's find 2 planets just to make it simple. So what are the 2 we're going to stop at? We're going to have Naboo and Salukami, Salami. So we got Naboo, and we've got Salukami. Actually, let's do 3 just so that we have 1 per faction. And no, not Honegger Story. That's a mission. Let's go Honegger. So we got Naboo, Salukami, and Honegger. The last one you don't need a comma after. And then we come to trade routes. So in Thrawn's Revenge, you need 1 between all the travel paths that you want. In the base game, it really just depends on where you want to have trade routes to, access to. I'm going to do this the Thrawn's Revenge way just so I show you how to do the trade routes. Actually, I'll just do 1 between Naboo and Salukami. Salami. Let's do Naboo and Honegger, actually, so I don't have to pronounce this planet's name anymore. So we're going to make a new trade route. Let's go. It is in its own file down here. It's traderoutes.xml. There we go. All right. So this also has its own definitions file. So you can have multiple files with trade routes in them. They'd all be listed in traderoutefiles.xml. So in Empire at War, in the base game, there's only 1 file. In Thrawn's Revenge, we have, I think, 3 or 4. Other mods, I'm not too sure on. I haven't spent much time looking. But if you wanted to separate yours into their own file, that's definitely something you can do. But we're looking to make 1 for Naboo and Honegger. So typically ours are alphabetized, but I don't think the base game has it that way. I think it's grouped by where it's used. So I'm going to check that there's not already one that's Honegger and Naboo. Honegger Korriban, Bothawai Honegger, Honegger Felucia, Camino, Kuwat, Kessel, Felucia, Alderaan, Honegger Kashyyyk, Mon Calamari, Wayland. Let's try it. Honegger Naboo and Naboo Honegger. Okay, so you want to avoid duplicate entries as much as possible. That's essentially why we're looking for that. So you can just copy that whole entry here, put it wherever it makes sense in the file. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to put it here. If you're adding it and you're going to be adding a lot, do put it in a place where you won't lose track of it. It can get really annoying trying to track down crashes because of duplicate objects. So I don't know if having a duplicate trade route crashes the game. I don't think it does, but I do know that one common crash is if you have a planet listed twice in here and you exit the game, that can actually cause a crash. So just a little bit of troubleshooting help there. But we're going to do Honegger to Naboo, Honegger, Naboo. So the name doesn't technically matter, it's just a way to keep track again. But point A and point B are the 2 planets. Hyperspace speed factor is the speed it'll go on that route. So if you want to just have a regular travel route to enable travel between 2 planets, but you don't want any economic or move speed bonuses to that, you do 1.0. This is the credit gain factor. So there you go. So our new trade route is called Honegger Naboo. We want to take that and we want to put it as our trade route here. And we'd also, if this were a thing where we were connecting all the planets, we'd have it between Naboo, Salukami, and Honegger. We'd have a bunch of different ones there. So now we come to our home locations. This is primarily used for the capital planet victory, but there's also some other stuff you can use as far as story scripting. And I think the AI cares in some ways about it. So for the rebels, we're going to make their homeworld Naboo. For the underworld, we'll make it Salukami, and for the Empire, we're going to do Honegger. So it goes home location, faction name, comma, planet name. And starting active player, this is who we're playing as. We're going to have the underworld as our active name. So we'll just leave the story tags the same, but you're going to want to change these between the different factions when you make their versions. So Story Plots, Rebel, AI, Heroes, expansion. So this is the Forces of Corruption. Usually the game gives a different player file for the heroes, even though they're all doing the same thing. I'm not sure why they give different ones, but the AI will always use the exact same plot file. I think it's more to do with the extra plots that they put in for this, but either way, we're going to use the Gateways versions of it. So Story Plots Rebel, AI Heroes expansion, Story Plots Empire, AI Heroes expansion, and Story Plots Sandbox 27 Underworld. And then this is where you set the AI. So for the Empire, it's Basic Empire. For the Rebel, it's Basic Rebel. For the Pirates, that's none. So this is actually, it may look like it's nothing, but it is a type of AI. So if you're going to have a faction present in the GC, if they control any planets, if they're going to be in any battles, you do need to set an AI to them. What none does is it makes them inactive on the galactic level, and it makes them active during tactical battles. If you don't have an AI for them set at all, it'll usually crash. You can also, if you want them to be active, you can just put Basic Empire in your pirate slot here. But for now, we're just going to leave that. We don't intend to have them in the GC in the first place, so it's not a big deal. I just want to make sure here, do they have any pirate forces? No, they don't. And I'm just leaving this one here because we're going to grab the other file name here, just so we know what they're all named. All right, so that gets us to our starting forces, or nope, victory conditions. So there's a few different ones. There's Galactic Superweapon Destroyed. So it's set between human and AI rather than per faction. So for you to win, you have to control all planets or destroy the Death Star. For the AI to win, they have to control all planets or destroy the Death Star. If you don't, there's a few other options. We're not going to go over those now. They're not super involved. There's somewhere it's like, I think, control planet X by X week. But anyways, so the markup file name, this is just essentially AI hints. It tells the AI which are the important planets, and they, for most Forces of Corruption things, they use the same thing. I'm not too sure about how moddable it actually is, like how much the AI actually cares about that. I'll just show you what that's referring to. Is it? Here we go. I always forget whether it's in AI or enumeration. Either way, not important. No reason to go over it. All right, so for every faction that you have in the GC, you're going to want to set the default. You're going to want to set their markup file name, either the default Galactic hints, or if you get more involved in it, you can make your own hint files. But I'm not sure how much the game will read files for planets that didn't exist in the base game, because you'd have to create new XML tags, which are typically hard-coded. I don't think the game will just create new ones if you put the new planet names in it. I don't think it can contextualize that. So either way, now we have supports custom settings. True. This will allow you to change the tech level, and it's so long since I played the base game. Does it let you set the amount of starting credits? I think it might, but I don't remember. It's whatever that options button that it lets you bring up is. That's what that does. Show completed tab. I don't know what this refers to. It might have. I'm going to speculate that it's cut content that lets you see if you've beaten a GC before. But I could be completely wrong there. I've never touched that. So special case planets for cantinas and hut palaces. So these let you produce things that you wouldn't normally be able to produce otherwise. So special case production, you have faction, planet name, building name, or entity name. So Empire, space, a regular array, or Empire, comma, space, a regular array, cantina. But we don't have those planets. So we're going to get rid of all these. And we're going to let them do that on Slukamai, because it's the most... Cantina. Yeah, we're just going to do the ground cantina. Who cares about the hut palace right now? You can do this with hut palace E, hut palace R, but I'm just showing you. Slukamai. And this will let them build the cantina on that planet. Now we get to the starting forces. We only need one entry per faction because we don't have more than one planet that they're starting with. So get rid of all this. Get rid of this. They already have Slukamais, but there we go. So for each one, you're going to want to give them some starting credits. So 8,000 for the rebels. Their starting tech level, 1 for the rebels, which is actually level 2, because again, the rebels tech level goes 0 to 4 is the way it's displayed, even though, or is the way it's coded, even though it displays as 1 to 5. And then the max tech level. So if you want to limit this to only go to tech level 4, you can set it to 3 for the rebels. That would be 4 for the Empire, and 4 for the Underworld. But you can mess around with all that all you want. Even if a faction isn't playable, you want to set a tech level for them, even if it's not like a main faction, because the fighter spawns are actually based on tech level. So if you don't have one set here, they won't know what tech level they are, and they won't actually spawn their fighters or be able to produce stuff properly. So you'll always want to set those. And you usually want to group it with the starting forces for that faction. But here's how you set the actual starting forces. So it'll know whether to put it in land or in space based on the type of entity it is. So for the rebels, we're going to be putting everything on Naboo. So it goes starting forces, that's the tag, then faction name, planet name, entity name. You can look through all the different files, show you all the different files that have all the units in them. But mostly you're going to have to just look through all the files in whatever mod you're modding for it, because a lot of mods do make up their own file structures for this sort of thing. But for the base game, it's primarily just ground companies Empire, ground companies Rebel. Then you have, and I'll show you what that looks like. Hold on. So Imperial Armor Group, Imperial Heavy Assault Company, and you're always, for ground stuff, you're always going to want to put the company, not the individual vehicle name. That's pretty important. For space stuff, you have, the files are called Space Unit. Wait, I passed it. It's been so long since I've touched the base game. There we go. Space Units Capital. So that has your Calamari Cruiser, your Star Destroyer, so generic Star Destroyer there. And that also has a variant called Star Destroyer. That is, I think, because they have some pirate versions of that stuff. So they have a generic version and the Imperial version. But I'm not 100% sure on that. But either way, you're going to want to use Star Destroyer, or Star_Destroyer, and Calamari_Cruiser. There's your corvettes, fighters. For fighters, you're going to want to spawn the squadron. Again, it's like ground vehicles for that. But for the Underworld stuff, it's a bit different. They coded them all into their own file for all the Underworld units. So here you go. Unit space. Unit space, Underworld, Buzz Droid, Crusader, Interceptor, Kidalbi. So you're going to go into those, and that'll show you the individual name for it here. So we're going to copy that. Go into that just to show you what we're doing here. And Underworld will give them a Kidalbi on, change this to Slukamai. So you can set up as many or as few starting forces as you like for any given faction. This is just how you do it, and this will work for any factions you add to the game, because it's not a tag that specifies it by faction in this part. It's just faction tag, planet tag, and then unit. And also try to make sure that you're not putting any units on a planet that doesn't exist in the GC. So I'm just going to convert all this stuff from Ifera to Honegger rather than come up with any new stuff. Because normally this probably isn't balanced, but I'm just showing you how to do it, so whatever. And again, when you're doing this sort of thing, it's always best to start with the template, because the templates are never going to change between the GCs. But just on that note, what I was saying there, this is also why it becomes a lot more finicky when you're adding factions beyond the third. We talk about this all the time with Ron's Revenge, where we can't do story events per se for fourth factions or fifth factions or etc. There's some stuff you can do because you can sort of fake it through the existing ones and Lua scripting, but that's a lot more complicated. But you see right here, Rebel story name, Empire story name, and Underworld story name. These are tags that are inherent to the game. They're hard-coded in. You can't just like take this and change it to Pentastar story name, because the game will have no idea what to do with this. It doesn't care if you do that it won't accept it. So that's why actually in Thrawn's Revenge, the Empire of the Hand is actually still coded as the Underworld. But that's essentially everything to set it up for one faction. What you need to do next is for the other factions that's playable, you can need 1 entry per. So this is now Sandbox Learning Rebel. And then that's all the same. You're changing this, the starting active player to Rebel. You're leaving the campaign set as Sandbox Learning. The rest of the stuff stays the same here. You're changing, it says Basic Rebel here to Underworld. And I think we're going to go check what the Underworld AI is called. AI Player Underworld. They changed the naming convention for whatever reason. I'm assuming they had different staff during it or something, or else they just decided they didn't like how they were doing it. Underworld. And the Rebel plot. Story plot, Sandbox 27. This will be Story plot, Sandbox 27 Rebel now. And we'll go see what the Underworld story name was when it's AI. So story plots, Underworld, AI heroes. So it's the same naming convention for that they had. All right. There isn't an alternate way to do this. There's actually an AI player control for the human player. So if you go, I'm going to just go with a Thrawn's Revenge for that, because it was used in Empire at War. I don't think it was used in, actually, they actually do have the old Empire at War campaigns in here. So campaign single player, Alderon's Demise Rebel. Yeah, so there's actually an AI control for the player. So Sandbox Human, the capitalization is important for this. So if you want to add that, you just grab that, put it in, and do it in here if you like. So Underworld, Sandbox Human. But another thing you can do is if you're lazy like me and you want to see how the AI will do certain things, it's not perfect because the AI, when it's set to not be or when a faction is set to not be a human player, there's certain things that the game will script it to do differently. But if you want to just see the basic AI in action, because you've set your starting player as the Underworld here, you can also do the AI player control, Underworld, Basic Empire, and you can just watch the AI sort of play the game. I don't know if I've actually done this since Forces of Corruption came out. It might be broken now. I don't know, but it's really irrelevant. It's just it can be funny sometimes. It can also help with bug testing. I do that a lot more in Sins actually, where I'll just start a game, surrender, and watch the AI fight to see how it'll treat each faction. But that's essentially everything you got to do for your own GC. And you should be able to just take the campaigns _ single player, and if you want to play the basic ones in Forces of Corruption, you can just put campaign single player in your campaign files here, and that should load up all the base game ones. Again, I've never done that myself in Forces of Corruption because I don't play the base game at all. So it's possible there will be a crash issue. I don't know if they removed any content or something that would make it required, but theoretically that should work as well. So anyways, that should... well, just once again, you've got to do the same thing you did for the Rebels for the Empire here, so we'll do that. And now we don't need our reference here, so we can get rid of that. So you go bye-bye. And this one's going to be Sandbox Learning Empire. So this is going to be AI Heroes expansion. Let's copy that, put that there, and we'll cut this sandbox. AI Heroes expansion. Did I get that right? I'm gonna make sure. Yeah, story plots, Empire, AI Heroes, so I don't need sandbox there. This is why you always double check. Story plots. Yeah, this is supposed to be Rebel AI. I don't know why I didn't catch that. Story plots, Rebel AI Heroes. Story plots, Empire AI Heroes. Then we need, I think it's already on that. Story plots, Underworld AI Heroes. Basic Empire, Underworld is good. So Rebel is basic Rebel. And again, you can put in that other line there if it doesn't work for you. Right. So that should have everything set up properly for you. Oh, gotta change the active player or else it won't. Make sure you save. But now if you're running if you're doing it in the source file here, this is probably the least efficient way to have a mod installed, but we're gonna go to our gold pack here to enable the source as our mod, set launch options, mods source, and that'll launch up your new mod that has that Galactic Conquest in it. So that should be, I know we only did a small one here, but that's the exact same process you're going to be using regardless of how big your campaign is. So you could have 2 planets, you can have 27 planets, you can have 200 planets. That would lag like hell, so don't have 200 planets, just theoretically. It's all going to work the same way. In the future, I might do some more information on story scripting and that sort of thing, so you can have some different events happen in your GCs, or you can change the hero spawning, but I did already cover how to add your own heroes to these. So if you're just doing something basic like that, then there is a link. If you can just search on the channel for that, just search for Modding 101, and it'll bring up the video about how to add your own space hero to Empire at War. But I think that covers everything. So actually I will mention that Smallpox and I on the TR team, we are making a tool to make your own GCs, because this can get really tedious, especially as you're trying to figure out like which planets connect to which for your trade routes, and you have to make 700 of them. But we do have a tool that we're working on for that. So that we'll probably still be working on that for a while. It's not ready yet, but once that's done, it will make everything I just taught you fairly irrelevant, except for adding it to the text files and adding it to the campaign files. But it's always good to know the basic information on how this stuff works anyways. And in the meantime, that should be enough to let you add whatever you want. But this is getting to be a very long video, and it is 12:05 a.m. So that's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Please do be patient with me, though. I am incredibly busy lately, and trying to get some of the mod stuff done, especially for the Arido playthrough coming up. And some Ascendancy stuff we need to get done, and then just general life stuff. But I will do my best to get back to all of you. So if you do have a question, just leave it in the comments there. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you have any requests for something to cover in a future tutorial, I'm going to try to do these more often, whether it's for Empire at War or another game. Let me know, and I'll see what I can do for you. So thanks again, guys. Bye.